Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another What's Up Wednesday. Oh, yeah, this is April 30th, 2025. We got an exciting show for you tonight, and this is kind of a piggyback off a show we did with these characters, I don't know, 6 weeks ago. This is Josh and Zach from VanLife Outfitters. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having us, Scott.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys back.
Hi, everybody.
And where are you coming at us from, Josh?
I am in Miami, Florida right now, just visiting some family and friends.
So you made it all the way across the state of Florida from Sarasota to Miami. Very cool. Yep. And Josh, where are you located?
So I'm just outside the Grand Canyon right now. Yeah, like I could probably throw a rock at it. I'm close enough. But yeah, it's very cool. Been here for the first time. So if I have a little internet blip from time to time, it's because my Starlink is fighting with these pine trees. But pretty psyched to be in a van, trying out this van life thing.
I hear it's fun.
Yeah, you should try it.
How bad did you have to clean the van to get it van travel ready?
You know, I just had to clean it up after Peace, Love, and Vans, right? So we had Peace, Love, and Vans, and we were there for like 2 weeks straight. Got kind of crazy in the van. Went home. Basically did some cleaning and then hit the road.
So so awesome. Yeah. Well, just thanks again, gentlemen, for being here. Yeah, you're both Zach's in a very different time zone. So, although Arizona, so they don't recognize daylight saving, so you're really on Pacific time.
Right. Yep.
Right? So,
right.
Try and get your Zoom in order for that stuff. This is great. Well, we kind of did a show with VanLife Outfitters about a month, 2 months ago, just before Peace, Love, and Vans. And other than lithium, awnings were the really big topic. So we invited them back to talk about awnings tonight. And this is what we kind of want to cover with the, this is not in order at all, but we're going to talk about types of awnings, the advantages, disadvantages, some of the brands, buying and installing, and then, of course, talk about VanLife Outfitters and how they can bring some of these solutions to you at home, whether you're a DIY or you want to professionally install it. So we just want to give you guys a second to kind of give us a little commercial on VanLife Outfitters. That would be great. And then I'll give a little bit of a monologue. We got some cool events coming up, and so I'll let you guys kind of go with that.
Cool.
About VanLife Outfitters.
Yeah, well, VanLife Outfitters is started as a blog, and then it became a store because we had so many people asking us, like, hey, what's the best this? How do I do that? What would you recommend for that thing or this thing? So the idea was we would put together, like, the world's best catalog of van life stuff. And it would all be stuff that we've used, that we like, that we've tested. So it's a catalog of road-tested van equipment. A lot of it is for like DIY builders. So we have everything from like insulation to appliances to electrical system. And then we have what we think is the best customer service in the industry. So that really matters for certain things. Like, if you buy insulation, it's pretty easy to kind of handle. But if you're buying an electrical system, maybe an air conditioner or a heater, it's really important to be able to have that trust in your vendor that when you need help, you're going to get it. So, that's kind of our story. Been around for about 5 years.
Yeah, it's also a great resource. Not just, it's not just a store as well. Like, it's a great resource for anybody looking to get into van life and learning how to build a van. So, Zach started the blog and he documented his entire van build, and then that blog, off of that blog, we have wiring diagrams, we have load calculators, we have product comparison matrices, we have obviously a huge library of videos explaining all this stuff. So it's really one of the best places to get started in a van life journey if you're thinking about doing van life and actually building your van.
Almost kind of like a curated catalog of content, so you're not doing a bunch of Google searches and spending a lot of time kind of trying to find the real stuff, especially with AI these days. I mean, it's cool, but it's kind of frustrating. Yeah. So if you are joining us for the first time, thank you for being here on What's Up Wednesday. My name is Scott Watson. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Go Small, Live Large, all about van life. And if you're a longtime viewer, I see some familiar names in here. Thank you for joining us for another What's Up Wednesday Van Life show. We do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. We bring guests on like VanLife Outfitters, Josh and Zach, to help you be a better van traveler in whatever season you're in on van life. We got guests coming up, other van owners, and with other brands coming up. So mark the calendar, and let me show you some. We just love to talk about where you are watching from. So if you can let us know where your location is, what your local fuel price is, and what your local weather, that would be terrific. And if you can help us out with the question format for me and Zach and Josh, it's 3 asterisks followed by 3 question marks. That helps me see your question more readily, and that we can get to it more quickly. And it looks like this. Have you had problems with your van, RV, awning? That would be the question you want to post in your thing tonight. And if you have a comment, it's 3 asterisks, 3 exclamation points. That helps us see your comment, and we'll bring it on screen more readily. We'll definitely say howdy throughout the hour. We go till about the top of the hour, and just want to quickly review some events that are coming up. These are on my website right now, and again, we do What's Up Wednesday every Wednesday at 7 Eastern. This Friday, I've spoken to Terry Minix at Embassy RV a couple times this week, and we're going to do a YouTube live stream with him this Friday, May 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern. He's going to kind of interview me. This is going to have a new twist on my experience in the Dolphin SS Special Edition. So I was in that van for a month, and we're going to talk about the van, the floor plan, the lithium system. By the way, Embassy has no awning at all. So if you do have a van that doesn't have an awning and you have like a magnetic version or something else, we'd love to know about that. But that's on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, so join us for that. And then we're doing a meetup, a roundup in person on Monday, May 5 from 9 to 2. We've been talking about this for a while. We've put a date on the calendar, and I'm happy to say several of you are joining me and Kyle for this American Red Cross adult and pediatric first aid CPR AED class. It's in West Palm Beach. It's $106 per attendee, paid to the American Red Cross. So I'm really excited. Josh and Zach, I'm curious, you guys ever been to one of these before? Kind of a
I've taken a CPR class, but I haven't been to like a first aid CPR class.
Yeah, it's been quite a while for me. Boy Scouts was quite a while ago. So I'm just terrified of rolling up into a situation or creating my own where I'm dialing 911 and waiting for the help to arrive if somebody dies in front of me. To me, that's just would be something that would be really bad. So we're doing that on Monday, and I think that's all I have. Now there is also this will be on my website later tonight. I don't have it here right now. Wingham, man, my voice. Hold on. Wingham USA is going to be doing a road show throughout the East, and they're going to be in Miami this Sunday. So come join me for that. I think it's May 4, yeah, Sunday. I better start asking you guys questions. My voice is
where is that thing in Miami?
Oh yeah, Josh, you can Key Biscayne.
Okay,
I'll send you the information.
Yeah.
So I'll post that on tonight. We're gonna they're going all over, all the way up to Chicago. So they're really excited about this.
Is it the two Winghams that they had at the RV show, or were they gonna have more?
Those have been delivered, so this is a different one.
Okay. I've always been curious what they're going to do about the whole tariff situation, because I understand that they're imported from Mexico to the United States, then they're sent to Italy from the United States, and then they're sent back from Italy back to the United States. So do they have to pay tariffs twice? Like that's been on my mind ever since this whole tariff thing started.
Yeah, and tariff really equals tax. So it's a good question. I'm sure it's gonna be one of the first ones that get asked when they do their in-person meet and greet. So we're going to be going.
Actually, it'd be 3 tariffs because then they'd have to pay Italian United States tariffs in Italy. So because
Yeah,
the EU is banging back.
Yeah, everybody. It's yeah. We'll be getting the straight answer, I'm sure. Okay, with that, let's go. Again, my website, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar, is right here. This will be the Wingham meetup in Key Biscayne, Miami, Florida. Will be there on there tonight. So join us for that. So with that, let's kind of get into the awnings. And if you have a we got a couple questions right out of the gate, not awning related. These guys want to plan early. So in case you don't know, VanLife Outfitters produces Peace, Love, and Vans. So Josh and Zach, when do tickets go on sale for Peace, Love, and Vans 2026? So assuming you're having the festival, maybe you have the dates, and maybe you can kind of give us an overview of that before we get into awnings.
Well, yeah, so we're still figuring that out, but it's going to be sometime. We're going to be releasing tickets in batches, but the first batch will be released sometime, I think, in June. Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, like early June, and that will be alumni, and then we'll kind of release tickets in batches from there.
Is it the same weekend, the first weekend of March?
Yeah.
2026.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Same
we just met with the county and locked that all in. So it's going to be March 6th to the 9th.
That's cool. So you can just get in the Ocala RV show and then zip on over to Dade City.
Yeah, have they announced the Ocala RV show dates yet?
No, but I don't know. Not that I'm aware of, but maybe.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be the same weekend, but we're trying to lobby them to have it the weekend before. So we're currently in the works.
Nice. You guys are great. And all the weight you have to throw around there, that's pretty cool. Look at this. We have somebody coming in from Australia. What day and time is it in Australia? Holy cow. This is great. Thank you for using the question format. All right, so let's talk about awnings. So maybe Josh, Zach, kind of run us through some of the awning types. Now, I'm most familiar with the you push a button and an electric motor kind of runs it out. Some of them have wind sensors, others you crank, right? So just kind of give us, and then some are magnetically attached so that there's no exterior awning at all. Mm-hmm. You kind of put it up. So maybe just kind of walk us through some of those types. That would be super helpful.
Yeah, I'll take this one, Zach. The whole genesis of this whole awning conversation is because last time we were doing, I think the What's Up Wednesday was about electrical, and so many people were asking questions about awnings that we said we got to do one on awnings. But the two main types for camper vans are going to be the motorized and the crank out style. There's also the magnetic style as well, but the two main types that you see on camper vans nowadays are the motorized and the crank style. And actually a lot of the crank styles, especially with the brand that we sell, which is Fiamma, we also sell Nomadic Innovations, but the main brand that we sell, Fiamma, you basically it's a crank model, and then you can most people are doing a crank model with an add-on motor, which is the Fiamma F45S, which we'll probably get into. But yeah, those are the two main styles.
And help us understand. Again, I'm most familiar with what I have, which is a Carefree is the brand. There's no leg, so the awning comes out, and there's nothing to attach it to the side of the van nor to the ground. Maybe Zach just kind of go through a legless, which is what I'm familiar with, versus what do you even call them? A legged?
Yeah. So like leg supported versus legless, or self-supported, I guess is what you could say. So in the Fiamma world, The F45 would be leg supported, which is the opposite of what you have, Scott, where you crank it out a little bit far enough to get the legs out of the case. And then after you take the legs out of the case, they can either be sent to the ground or they can be sent to the sidewall of the van to support the awning's weight. And so those tend to be the simplest and the most affordable. And then the legless or the self-supported, again, in the Fiamma lineup, that would be the Eagle awnings. So like the F65 Eagle. Those are motorized, so you don't have to manually turn them out. And then as they come out, they have a support system, so they don't need a leg. And then another kind of distinction between some of these awnings is how do they attach to your vehicle? So they have awnings that are designed to be attached to a flat surface. So imagine like a traditional RV with like square walls, or these days, in the case of a camper van, a flat side or a flat surface on a roof rack. And so in the Fiamma world, the F45 is the awning that is leg supported and meant to be connected to or attached to a flat surface like a roof rack or a wall. And then you have the F85, and that is a leg supported awning, but it's designed to attach directly to the roof. So if you have a ProMaster van, a Sprinter van, a Mercedes Sprinter, or a Transit van, those usually have attachment points along the top of the roof. And these awnings, instead of being attached to a sidewall, they're designed to attach to a roof. So that's the F65. And then if you want a legless self-supported awning, you can do the F65 Eagle. But again, that model is designed to be attached directly to the roof. So there really isn't a product in the Fiamma world that's designed to be, let's say, roof rack or wall mounted that is self-supported. But there's a newer product that we can't carry at VanLife Outfitters. It's the Nomadic Innovations A2 awning. And this is a self-supported, motorized awning that can be mounted to a roof rack. So it fills niche, and it's a pretty cool new product. So hopefully that kind of gives you some scope on what's possible.
Maybe one question I would talk about attaching to the van itself. Something I've always found curious is that while the awning, it opens and extends and protects you from the rain in particular, it actually drips down the side of the van because there's no like a drip rail. Yeah. So is there some magic there that I'm missing other than actually physically installing a drip rail, which I will be doing because when my awning, when it did work, but does it? It always, water came on the side down in the patio door. So any remedies for that? And then we have another question around some maintenance here.
Yeah, definitely. So Fiamma thought of that, and they sell a variety of what they call rain guards. And so if you go to our website, which I could screen share if you want, but if you just search for Fiamma rain guards, there's these flexible rubber pieces that are molded in such a way to fit between the awning and the roof. And so, like, let's say if you have the F85S awning and it's attached to your roof, they can supply you with a rubber trim piece that fills the gap between where it mounts on the roof and the sheet metal of the roof. And if you install that, you don't get, it'll still kind of, depending on the angle of the van, you might get some dripping off this side or that side, but it protects the slider door area pretty well.
Which is so annoying. You got this awning out and the rain it's just crazy. So apparently it's a poignant, timely topic here, says Miss Chatter. So good to see y'all. Timely topic. My awning, which I've only used 3 times, broke last weekend. That's on her new Chinook camper van. So that sucks. You'll have to give us a little more information, Miss Chatter. And Cat Bandu says, this is the question around cleaning. I found most awnings that it was sometimes not convenient to clean, but if you missed a leaf or two, often it would stain. Any cleaning recommendations? Simple green didn't work that well. So keeping your on both sides. So if you've rolled up wet, it kind of gets mildew stains, right? As well.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah. I don't have a lot of experience with this, but I did try two things because I had the mildew problem. I was in Florida. It rained. I had to go quickly, rolled it in. It got kind of like not so great. And I tried OxyClean and I tried Tide, actually, like, laundry detergent. Neither worked really well, but I gotta say the Tide was more successful than the other things I tried. So maybe laundry detergent.
Maybe somebody out there's got. There's some things like in Florida. So mildew on the side of a house or your fence or something is really prevalent, and there's you can get this spray. I think it's like really diluted bleach that kind of bleaches the mildew up. So maybe something like that might work. That's the only thing that would come to mind. But let's see. Here's a JK House, and then we're going to talk about magnetic ones for just a second. Damaged roof and destroyed awning hitting a tree branch. Normally, collision shops cannot deal with tall vans. You need to find a semi-truck collision shop for repairs. Yeah, this is kind of the problem with awnings. We're going to talk about that in a little more detail. But man, whether they're out or in, they're kind of can be problematic. Which is why a lot of folks like the magnetics, and I've seen some in the Embassy RV group because they don't come with awnings. They have kind of two approaches. One is they throw a series of straps over the van and connect to the wheel wells on the other side, and then has a kind of an awning tarp that then is staked to the ground, or there's one that's magnetically attached to the patio, above the patio door side, that kind of uses tent poles to make a canopy that also is staked to the ground. You guys, have you heard much about those, or maybe somebody in the audience here knows about those at all? I don't know. I can't remember the brands.
Yeah, I'd love to know more about the magnetic one. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay. Here's Sue. So we're going to talk about some of the advantages here in just a minute. This is Sue and John. We had an awning on our first camper van and rarely used it. Our second van, we decided not to get one as we wanted to minimize things that could break or go wrong. Happy with that so far. I kind of agree with Sue and John here. Is when I used mine, it was mainly for shade. If it was raining out, because I traveled so, like 1 or 2 days, I wasn't sitting for a week. So for me, it was really protecting the van from getting heat soaked.
Yeah, I think it all depends on how you plan to use your van and what your lifestyle is. So if you're looking to be more urban camping, visiting grandchildren, or just checking out cool towns and stuff like that, you're probably going to use it less. But if you're the type of person that wants to get lost for a couple weeks and go out into the middle of a national forest or BLM and just like set up your van and not move for like a couple weeks and just kind of tune out for a little while, and I think you probably use the awning a little bit more. Obviously, if you're going to be traveling places where it's more rainy and you want to be outdoors, it does help to have an awning. So if you're going to travel in the Pacific Northwest or coastal areas where it rains a lot, then it might make sense to have an awning. But so it really kind of depends on your lifestyle. I am sort of the latter of that group. So I like to be in BLM land and kind of like, out in the middle of nowhere for, 1-2 weeks at a time. And so I do use an awning quite often, and I set up a little living room out there, but, to each their own.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. So that's what we're going to talk about next is some of the advantages, because they are cool for sure, and they have some very specific use cases. We got a few comments here. Here's Charlie Grace in the house. So Charlie Grace Adventures loves her Fiamma much more than the Carefree. So she's in an Echo with kind of that wraparound Batwing style. Here's Gary. He's an Embassy RV owner. No awning mounted. We do carry Moonshade. That was one of them. Find it easy to install. honestly, we've only set it up a few times and rarely find that we need it. So it's kind of one of those things, and you probably miss it once in a while, but man, you just, unless you're sitting for a while. And we're going to talk about this, but let's answer this question. This is a good one. Josh and Zach from Sherry, does VanLife Outfitters sell only items for van builds, or do they do any installations, particularly around, let's say, lithium or awnings?
Yeah, so we used to do installations for about a year. We did them, but we don't do them anymore. But we have, if you're in Florida, we do have a network of recommended builders that that our customers have had good experiences with in the past. And we do have builders all around the country that we can't like specifically recommend, but we have heard good things. So just let us. Typically, it's one of those things where just let us know where you are, and we'll hook you up with. You see if we can recommend somebody good. We do have a builder directory on our website. I've had good experiences with Lubercraft, who's next door to VanLife Outfitters. He's literally in the same building. And was at Peace Love and Vans and showing off his builds. And he actually helped me build my van that I'm in currently. Well, not in right now, but my current van. And it's a great, he did a great job on it. So, and he can do everything from electrical installs, awning installs, air conditioners. I mean, full van builds from beginning to end.
And the idea would be to kind of do some of the research and shop at VanLife Outfitters, then ship it to the installer, or that'd be the, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of builders in the country are customers of ours. If it's a local builder, they usually just come and pick it up from us. So yeah. If you're in Florida next year for Peace, Love, and Vans, and you want to get some work done, there's a whole network of builders in the Southwest Florida that we can tell you about.
That's a great reason to come to Florida. Yet another one. So let's talk about some of the advantages. Some of them are super obvious. We talked about expanded living space. So if you kind of put your rug out there and some chairs and a table, and maybe you got your libation live and just kind of chilling, that's kind of keeping the rain off. What other advantages? Weather protection. I mentioned shade. What are things come to mind for you guys, and why are people maybe adding or upgrading awnings from an advantage standpoint? What brings them good use cases?
I mean, I think those are the main ones. If you are going to be stationary for a long time, Fiamma sells actual like tent style rooms where the awning can be used as the structure for this whole exterior living space. So that's pretty cool. If you travel with somebody and maybe both of you are working, it's nice to have two different workspaces. So I think, I'll just reiterate what Josh said. It's like, if you are stationary and you need the extra space, they're really helpful. But if you don't do that often, a lot of people just find them to be kind of like an unnecessary frustration. So, it's kind of like the benefits are pretty obvious, but do you need those benefits?
Yeah, it's and I think for me the cooling effect, the shade was what was always the biggest thing for me, and mine it failed. I can't remember why. We got it fixed, and then now my van, Miss Lily, she's showing her ears like me and my giant cursor here. So, and then when I got into the car wreck where the guy rear-ended me in Fort Worth, Texas, it tweaked the awning just enough that when we replaced the motor, it burned it out. Now Carefree doesn't even make that model anymore. So I've been awningless, even though it's still attached to the van. It went out, and thank God it went back in at Peace, Love, and Vans last year, 2024, because it's never worked since. So we got one rain day free on that Saturday. So let's talk about disadvantages, because I think the one that comes to mind, I think in this community a lot is wind damage. There was a huge recall on the Carefree brand in particular because they would automatically deploy without any rhyme or reason, or people were in travel. We know Mesa Michael, I'm not sure, is here tonight, but his actually went out when he was traveling. Other folks have had that experience, and the recall remedy was not awesome. But maybe let's talk about some of, maybe it's rattling, maybe it sags, maybe the wind sensor doesn't respond. Maybe just kind of share some of the, again, experiences that people have had, and they're coming to replace or upgrade with some of the products you guys sell from a disadvantage of an awning. Thoughts?
Some of that's brand specific, I mean, Carefree's been mentioned as problematic. So we've definitely had plenty of customers who replace the Carefree with a Fiamma that tends to be a more reliable. You don't hear of the like random self-deployment problem. In my experience, an awning, again, if you don't really need it, it's like one more thing that is mechanical that can break. In my particular van, I think this is just my awning. Maybe I did something to it at some point, but if I'm driving at a certain speed, the like wind conditions are a certain way, it rattles, which drives me crazy because I hate rattles. So my style of travel is like I move frequently, so I don't end up using that awning very often, going back to what we talked about before. So the rattle has me on the fence whether or not I should just take the thing off. Josh, you probably think of some other vans.
So Carefree isn't exactly the best name for the company since they cause a lot of worries. But with a lot of people, a lot of customers, they want the motor with what I call them the wings, and those are basically the self-supported awnings. And I actually, even though like we sell those at a higher price and we make a little bit more money on those, I actually try to talk them out of those and just get the leg supported awnings that are manual crank out, because those don't actually those have a lot less moving parts to go wrong. The self-supported motorized ones can be a little temperamental in the wind. So, it's the opposite problem of the Carefree. So when a little bit of wind, like a wind gust, they automatically retract to protect the awning. And sometimes they can be a little bit overly sensitive. But obviously, some of the other main drawbacks is like the cost. So, if you don't buy an awning, you don't have that cost. You don't have that install if you're not installing it yourself. The weight, it does, weigh. It's not super heavy, but it does add to the weight of your van. It does affect the aerodynamics ever so slightly of your van. Zach brought up a really good point that I never really even thought of, because most of my travels over the last 8 years in the van have been solo, but I have traveled with friends occasionally. But, that is a kind of an advantage of having an awning if you're traveling as a couple, because, sometimes you just need a little bit of space. The van can get cramped with two people. Sometimes people's moods can fluctuate. So having an extra living space with a door completely separate, even though it's outside, but you're still covered but from the elements, it does kind of help. I would say like the first year I traveled in my van, which was like 2017, I wasn't using the awning that much because it was my first year in the van and I wanted to see everything, and I wanted to go from A to B. Like every 2 days, I wanted to move. I want to see that place next. Oh, got to keep on the timeline. And even though I kind of like threw away my plan after a little while, I still wanted to keep moving. But then after like year 2 and year 3, I started to like really slow down. I had seen most of the places that I wanted to see, and at that point, I really just wanted to like relax and chill and like really kind of, I brought a bike that third year, and so like I would just leave my van with the awning deployed on a BLM land, and I'd ride to the park or to the town, the closest town, and that really worked out well for me. So those are kind of like the advantages and disadvantages of having the van. But I will say, get the, it doesn't take a lot of strength to unfurl your awning, and it takes probably a minute and a half to set the whole awning up. So the motor and the legless is really cool, but it's not necessary. So maybe a happy medium is, maybe instead of not getting an awning at all, you just get like the very bare bones awning, and you crank it out. It's really not. You don't need to be very strong to unfurl that. So. And then you don't have really a lot of things to break.
That's really great advice, guys. And just to share a story that I experienced personally, this was in Tennessee near Jonesboro, I think it was. I was actually at a KOA down by the river. Literally, it was in the national forest. It was so great. But a lot of people have this false sense of security because there's the wind sensor, and I'm very guilty. That's why I'm sharing this story. So I had my awning out, and there was literally a wind gust that flipped it up. There wasn't any wind. It was just this surge of wind, and it the 2 points, the pivot point, actually punctured the awning. So I have 2 big rips. Because there was no wind, it was a wind gust that lasted just a second or two by relying on the wind sensor. So I am hyper aware of even this rig here. If there is a smallest amount of now these are a little more sturdy than something that's more portable like a van, but my advice would be not to, number one, leave your awning unattended. Number one. Number two is don't rely on the wind sensor. If there is any wind happening, I would retract that awning by half because it makes it a little more sturdy. And if there's really wind, just get it out of there. Don't go to bed with your awning extended. You might wake up in the morning with no awning at all.
One of the I thought you were finished. One of the advantages having a leg supported awning is you can stake it down, and you can also attach it to the side of the van. So that provides a lot of extra stability in windy conditions. So
100%.
It's another kind of point for the leg supported manual awning.
Yeah, I would definitely go. If I was to get a new awning, is go for a manual crank and leg supported. The other thing that I've heard from others and probably myself is the wind sensor is battery operated, and kind of like your smoke alarm, replace it every year. And I don't know, pick daylight savings maybe, or whatever. But if you haven't used that in a while and it hasn't gone off, you may have dead batteries and it won't work at all catching wind. So don't let a wind sensor give you a false sense of my awning is safe. So how are we doing? We got advantage, disadvantage. We're going to talk about some brands here in a minute. You guys have already covered some of that, but we got some comments here. Let's look at that quick. So here's Miss Chatter. We kind of talked about this, where we want to go to get their awning replaced or removed. Any recommendations? So you guys kind of covered that. You have a list on your website, is that right?
Yeah. So you could check out the builder directory at VanLifeOutfitters.com. Really kind of depends on where you're located. But Zach, do you happen to know if the wind sensor on the Fiamma is battery operated, or is that hardwired?
I don't know about that. Yeah,
we'll find out. Scott.
Yeah. Okay. One other kind of like random thing to point out about awnings as we get into brands, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some solar generating awnings in the near future. In fact, Josh and I, we were in Miami for a Victron Energy conference distributor meetup, and we met some folks there that are working on just that. So that would kind of bring a whole different layer to this conversation, where in addition to the shade and rain protection, there'd be the utility of actually generating power from the awning. Because a lot of times you're using it to shade yourself. So that would be really cool. And I think that's coming fairly soon. Yeah.
And that would be really supplemental to any roof mounted solar panels, where solar, certainly in the in a sunny environment would be meaningful, and still keeping your van in the shade. But that's cool. That would be kind of high tech. Let's see. We have so Dave 49's got a question here, gentlemen. Cost in general for a good quality awning, lifespan, practical use we've been talking about. So maybe costs, and what is there a lifespan? Can you replace the fabric and keep the metal? How's that work?
Yeah, so the cost range, our basic recommendation has been like the simplest awnings. So, I'm just looking at our website right now. If you get a leg supported manual crank, kind of average length for a van, you're looking at like, something in the $1,000 to $1,500 range. And then you can easily go up to twice that if you go with the opposite extreme, which would be self-supported, motorized, etc. All of these have accessories like stake kits, LED lights, which is actually a pretty good feature in the Fiamma world. The LED strip lights are always usable, even if the awning is not deployed. So it's basically like having an exterior light. And then, most of the parts are replaceable, including the awning fabric. But it's not a real DIY project. Like, that's usually something you need to hire a professional for. Lifespan is hard to predict. Honestly, when I hear of awnings not working, it's usually some major event. Like, we saw someone who crashed into the side of a wall, lots of wind events like we were just talking about. So motors die out, hence the recommendation for simplicity. So in my experience, awnings die of natural causes. They're usually murdered in some way or another.
Die of natural causes, that's right. Or user error. I mean, how many
times? Yeah, murder's an extreme word, but yeah, I mean, they kind of are pretty durable until the wind destroys them or you smash them into a wall or something.
Yeah, I mean, raise your hand if you've ever done something as stupid as I did, is like drive away with your electric cord connected to your van or the awning out and you're just completely discombobulated and forget what's going on and you drive away and all of a sudden, or a window open and you look out your rearview mirror and it's like, holy cow, my awning's out. Or my windows open, awning style windows. So make that part of your departure checklist to make sure your awning is in all the way. And if you're worried about the Bluetooth self deployment when it shouldn't, I've heard a lot of people pull the fuse or add a manual on off switch to the power. So a lot of different opportunities there. Ryan here is saying spray the awning with wet and forget, referring back to cleaning. So I'm not familiar with that product, but there's an idea for folks. Again, thanks for being here, Josh, Zach, and everybody joining us tonight. Eric, who's going to be one of our owner guests here soon, has a moonshade. This year I upgraded with 2 seersucker suction cups with D-rings. I am kind of familiar with seersucker. Is it like a big suction cup? How does that? Are you guys familiar with those?
Yeah. I've actually tried to get in touch with them to be an exhibitor at Peace Love Vans, but they make really cool suction cup accessories. They're like military grade suction cups. They're pretty cool. And I've seen people put like shelves on the side of their vans. They put like a little grill on the side of their van, or like it's all obviously temporary setups, but like really, really cool suction cup, different accessories that you put on the side of the van. And what I think he's talking about is he probably put a couple of those up at the top of his van, above his door, maybe with some D-rings, and then attached his moonshade to those seersucker suction cups.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Probably a better attachment than maybe more strong than magnets, but yeah.
And here's Ryan contributing $5. Appreciate that, Ryan. That's I don't have my jingle jar. I apologize. I shouldn't have that out, but thank you for that. That will be put to good use, I assure you. That almost buys a coffee these days. Here's Catmandu saying, I have a moonshade awning which is available with magnets, suction cups, or perma mounts. However, if you have to take it down during wind or storm wind gusts, it's quite unwieldy for one person. And they're traveling in an Aon RV, which is kind of a B plus style. So thank you, Kathmandu, for that. So we've talked about some of the brands. Let me just kind of bring this up. My advice would be to do your research. Look at VanLife Outfitters. And by the way, thank you for your $1 million contribution check for having you guys on tonight. Just kidding. We just love Josh and Zach, so it was a great topic. We'll have you guys back on other things, but I would really look at what people are doing with Carefree. They're kind of an ironic name, Fiamma. What other good brands are you guys aware of? This is an Edsel, by the way. If you're under 40 years old, you probably don't know what this is.
Well, just going back to what we do at VanLife Outfitters, if you're building out a camper van or sort of upgrading a camper van, one of the difficult things is the overwhelming amount of choice. So what we do very intentionally is only carry a few things in every category. So the fact that we carry Fiamma awnings is kind of like us. That's our endorsement of their product. But other popular brands, Carefree is something that a lot of the RV OEMs use. And I think that probably has to do with price. We've heard pretty good things about Dometic awnings, but I haven't used them personally. Something that's new to the market, but like I mentioned earlier, is really promising. Nomadic Innovations, formerly known as Nomadic Cooling. So pretty well known for creating DC air conditioners. They have a lineup of awnings now where I think they give you a lot of value for the price, so they're kind of coming into the market with these extra features at a pretty good price. And then, as far as like things that you magnetically or suction cup attach, I think Moonshade is probably the market leader for that. Those are the ones that I can think of. What am I thinking?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The big ones in the camper van industry is Fiamma, Dometic, Nomadic, and Carefree. Probably in that order. Maybe Nomadic above Dometic, and then Thule is another one that makes. I haven't seen a ton of them on camper vans. I've seen a few, but I would say those 4 or 5 brands are the big ones.
Super great. So again, a lot of great comments in here tonight. Here's Victor. He's coming from Wellington, which is just about 12 miles that way. So Victor, what's up? We've got some in-person things coming. So this is Life and Death. This is interesting. YouTube shadow banned Scott tonight. No notification that you'd be up in a few. I'm not sure what FWI.
For what it's worth.
Oh, for what it's worth. Thank you, Josh. Clearly you're a little younger than I am. So that's interesting. I don't know why that happened tonight. So hopefully, if you're a subscriber to Go Small Live Large, you did get notification. I assume Life and Death is. So YouTube's just being weird like the whole world is right now. This is kind of cool here. Nice feature of my new van. So again, it's a Chinook RV. Is that if you turn the key on, it automatically tracks the awning. So kind of if you have the automatic steps, a lot of those do the same thing, or a running board. They automatically. So that's kind of a good feature. So maybe test that if you're shopping for a van. Is that something that's automatically included? Appreciate you sharing that. That is so great. So let's just kind of round out on DIY versus a pro install. I think you both had mentioned that it's kind of a big lift to put one of these on, remove it. You're dealing with the electrical. Is it going to be the same? I mean, the fuse panels and everything. So what's kind of your experience with people on DIY versus taking it somewhere and having it professionally installed or removed and installed if you're upgrading? Thoughts?
So the vast majority of our customers are DIYers, and actually the majority of those people are using roof racks and they want to attach the awning to a roof. So that largely narrows it down to the simplest of the awnings that don't have a motor. So they don't actually even need any electrical service unless you do have the LED lights, in which case it's very modest electrical use.
I think Zach's frozen there.
Yeah.
Well, while he's unfreezing, I will say on our Instagram, I had a video where I installed one on the side of a Ford Transit, so you can get a pretty good idea of the steps on how to install one into the side of a van. That particular video is installed into the side of the van. It's actually much easier to install one onto a roof rack. So if you feel like if after watching that video on our Instagram, you might have to scroll down a little bit, but the video is called Installing a Fiamma F45S on a Ford Transit. If you feel like you can handle that video and you have a roof rack, then it'll be even easier. It looks like Zach's back.
Welcome back, Zach.
I was just telling him that we have a video on our Instagram where I'm installing one on the side of a Ford Transit. What were you saying, Zach?
I was just saying, a simple awning on a roof rack is actually really easy. These are not the hardest things to install. It takes a couple of people because they're big and they're heavy, and they're shipped freight to your house. But as a DIY project, they're not too bad. If you just don't want to mess with it, we can go back to the directory that we have on our website. So you can definitely find somebody near you who could tackle that installation for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. The install's easy, but you do need a couple people because it's so heavy and cumbersome. So grab your neighbor, give them a case of beer, and you'll get it done.
After the job.
Probably take maybe 2 to 3 hours to install the awning on a roof rack, and then maybe an extra hour if you're installing it into like the side of a van, like the Ford Transit. And then if you're installing it into the roof rails, like on a Mercedes Sprinter, like an F65 or F80, probably even easier.
Yeah.
Interesting. So here's Deborah saying she didn't get a notification either, but you got yours, Charlie Grace. Charlie Grace is going to go live in a few minutes on her channel. She's got a fun show. Here's Frank and Sharon. They have a Embassy RV. We have a moonshade, but rarely use it. Always on the move, I guess. So again, it's kind of your style of travel, and that really makes that a big point. So again, here's kind of their again, I'm getting no compensation for this tonight. We just love Josh and Zach and what they do for the van community. They've got a couple of new projects they're working on that we'll share later in the year, but maybe just so VanLifeOutfitters.com. You mentioned a lot of there's the store there. You can look at the Fiamma brands, and Peace, Love, and Vans happening 2026, same weekend in March, right? Yep. What's your Instagram and YouTube channel?
At Peace Love Vans for Instagram, and then Zach, what's the YouTube channel? He might be frozen here.
Frozen. The wind is blowing over. Starling tipped over.
Well, there's only like a handful of videos, but it should be at Peace Love Vans.
Okay. Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great. Well, gentlemen, just thank you again for sharing your expertise with you. We'll check in with you over the next few weeks, but you are all doing van life during the month of May, which is just awesome. Zach's leaving Miami, headed to Colorado, and Zach's in Arizona right now. I'm so jealous of my current situation, but we're dealing with it. Any final thoughts? We're kind of coming up to the end here, but any final thoughts on van life travel products? Availability still okay from what you see for products?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be an interesting couple of months, with the tariff situation and suppliers figuring that out, since a lot of what everyone buys comes from other places. Fiamma is an Italian company, for instance. We've been talking a lot about them. But yeah, right now, no problems. We're at VanLife Outfitters. We're really committed to helping our customers. Like going back to like the customer service thing, like if you have any questions, if you need anything, you can just email us info@vanlifeoutfitters.com, orders@vanlifeoutfitters.com, or service@vanlifeoutfitters.com. And somebody will get back to you like right away. Like we're very old fashioned. We have a bunch of humans that answer the phone and everything. So, or the anti-Amazon.
I know there's nothing wrong with analog, in my opinion. Sometimes the tech overtakes everything else. And you guys do van life, so and build vans. So this is not something that you kind of threw together on a whim. It's you guys are really committed to this. Are you still doing your kind of your meetup there at the shop, open house thing every now and again?
Yeah, every now and again we'll have a open house in Sarasota, Florida, where the world headquarters of VanLife Outfitters is located. We haven't done it in a while because we had Peace, Love, and Vans, which is like a super duper meetup. But yeah, that'll happen from time to time. It's fun. We get people bringing their vans to our parking lot. We have a potluck. So if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the VanLife Outfitters newsletter, which you can do on that website. And consider subscribing to the Peace, Love, and Vans newsletter because subscribers and alumni for Peace, Love, and Vans will have the first opportunity to buy tickets, right? So Josh mentioned how we have these like different periods of time where you need a special code. So that group of people will have first access to tickets.
Very cool. Well, we're looking forward to 2026 and doing it all again. Scott Watson Way, Go Small, Live Large Lane, and the Terry Minix, whatever. We had like four different streets. So it was just great. And Embassy RV had a great time. They got quite a few deposits on their Cape Cod with the V Plus, which was awesome. And my Dolphin SS Special Edition was a huge hit. And we're still getting notes here and there about our what do you call it? Congo line, where
the Congo line.
He was in front, and we kind of disrupted. Well, we just kind of made fun, but there's like 20 of us doing the Congo line in front of the live band.
That was awesome.
And then we did karaoke. I think we kept some people up that night, so let's look forward to doing that again.
You guys all definitely bring the party. We love it.
Definitely bring the party.
We appreciate that.
Great
Well,
people.
Josh, Zach, did I see any? Did you see any comments or questions that we didn't really hit before we close out?
I think so.
I don't think so. Okay. I used to a Congo line. It was great. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I will send a note to YouTube scolding them for not sending out alerts. That's super weird. But Josh, Zach, stay right there in the studio. Thank you, everybody. New video on Sunday, and we'll see you next Wednesday for What's Up Wednesday. Get your journey on. Peace be with you. Josh, Zach, any final thoughts?
Thanks for having us. It's always a pleasure. We really appreciate everything that you do, Scott.
You betcha. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody.